we were driving to this other position, trying to navigate these. I hate to call them roads because it makes it sound like you could tell. You know what I mean? But you were driving.
Roads.
Yeah, you were
roads. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to call.
So who put the signs out there as Scorpion or whatever?
I don't know, but my suspicion would be it was the military police or some forward operating unit but I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying that's not something they would have done, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, no. But no, not at all. But anyway, yeah, one day, speaking of driving, we were going from one point to another point and the sun was setting and I'm driving, we're in a Humvee, and all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, I don't see any road tracks anymore. So we stop. And I get up in the turret and I'm looking behind us and there's just our road tracks, man. And, I didn't, of course, the closer you got to the Iraqi border is where the minefields were and the berm and all that other stuff. And so, for all I know, I could have been driving in the middle of a minefield, didn't even know it, so that was one of my early experiences before the ground war started of how quickly in the desert you can get disoriented and be exactly where you're not supposed to be. And bad things happen when you're out there.
So you made it back okay?
Oh, for sure. We just, retraced our steps to get back to the road and figured out how we missed the road and got to where we were supposed to go extremely late. They didn't want to let us in and all that other drama, but no, it was fine. It was just one of those moments where your, pucker factor is pretty high because you don't know everything looks the same.
So how long were you over there?
Gosh, just a little over 4 months, not very long.
And so you were
the war didn't last long.
You were a driver over there? No, but you did.
No, actually, I was over there responsible for the communications security and attached to it.
You just happened to be driving, though.
I was carrying classified information from point A to point B. That's all it was.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they can't fly that stuff back and forth.
It was. I mean, they could, but it wasn't that terribly far. They were too busy flying sorties over Iraq, bombing. So.
Right. All right. So then how long were you in after that?
So, well, while I was there, this is fast forward the wars, over. Now we're in northern Kuwait, and we were one of the most northern units to protect what was the fear back then is that there was going to be a resurgence and attack us from the rear once we were, finding our way back to Saudi Arabia. But that's where all the oil wells were burning. I've got some amazing pictures of where nighttime is daytime, and it was time for me to reenlist or make a decision. And I actually, when it was around that period of time where I actually had this idea for an invention while I was in the desert. And it was because of that idea of this invention that I was convinced was going to be my career and turn me into a millionaire that I decided not to reenlist and follow my promise to my parents that I would get out of the military and go to college. And so that was my reason for not reenlisting in the regular Army, if you will, full time, right? And then going to the National Guard.
And then did you become a millionaire from your idea?
No, it was a tragic, catastrophic failure of biblical proportions. It was terrible.
Well, at least you learned something from it, right?
I did. I learned, honestly, I make fun of it. I learned a lot from it. The product was called the Wire Dog. And it really came out of necessity in the desert because before the war started, they had 12 of us, whatever it was, 10 or 11 of us, dragging spooled, communication lines from position to position and digging a trench and laying the wire and covering it back up. And it was just absurd.